Few of us notice how important the first 5 years of our lives are. Most of the times they are called the formative years. It could be 5 years, it could be 3 years, 2 years, and there are rare cases 10 years or so. Do have a fundamental impact on how everybody ends up being, ends up acting, ends up thinking. Well, here in starting out, we decided to focus today on the formative years, the first few years of somebody's life. Kindly subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Let's go. In those first 5 years of a child's life, in the first years of somebody's life, you find that they are more like a clean slate, more like a fresh hard drive, more like a book without anything written in it, and they basically start absorbing every last thing around them, right? Intentionally or unintentionally. And while they are absorbing all this, it's fundamentally to make sure that they operate less on instinct and more on reason. But what will they use to reason? What are the metrics they will use to reason? Which is why it's very important for the parents of a child or the people who are around them, the guardians, to impart certain things to them. Now, some people may intentionally or unintentionally impart some of the positives in the children's lives, such as morality, such as spiritual principles, happiness, kindness, joy, empathy, different kinds of things, either by saying things directly to them or just generally how you treat them and how you treat the people on the outside. And you could find that you're rubbing off on them in ways that you could never have imagined, while others might intentionally or unintentionally also create fear. Fear which is not only fear of yourself, but also fear of the outside world, cultivating a sort of fear that everything out there is deadly, like don't go out there or something like that. Either it's the atmosphere that you create, when you walk in a room, or the stories that you tell when you come back, the arguments you have probably with somebody around, right? All these culminate into what comes into the child's mind, and what is the overriding thing that rules their life. Is it going to be fear? Is it going to be what the nanny says and thinks? Is it going to be what the internet says? Is it going to be a couple of video games? And mostly in those early years, once you miss the opportunity to sow certain seed, it might be difficult to change what they think and what they are going to do in their later years, the formative years of life. What are you allowing, even for not only for the parents, also the siblings? Sometimes here in Africa they say that a firstborn child is like another parent, an extra parent, somebody who, there's so many things that they're said about, actually, that some people say that a firstborn should be considered, and being in an African family, the firstborn in an African family should be considered as a qualification for a job when somebody is applying. But well, that's just one of the things they say. But really, what they go through sometimes can almost justify somebody's view on that. Fear that you're sowing, is it handing over what your children are going to believe to the teachers, the nannies? Is it frustration? What is it that you are sowing in the child's mind? Is it a place where immorality is tolerated to the highest order? And some things, even like, let's say, drinking alcohol. So while some people talk about taking it in regulated amounts, sometimes you may be regulating your amounts, but somebody who has seen it in their formative years may go crazy about it and become an alcoholic and be unable to control it. And they have to go through a part of their life where they have to go through rehab, they have to get their life back in order just because of what was seen in their formative years. A number of things that rub off on the children, actually. Some of them could be also the temperaments. You find that, of course, every child is born different. You find that there are those that, are excited to see people. There's one that's grimacing all the time. There's one that cries a little bit more than the other. No two children are really the same. I think something that parents really learn on the job. And for us who have been blessed to serve in the children's ministry, I've also seen it before, that you can't ever believe that any set of two children are going to be the same. They could be similar, but not exactly the same. And then you find that probably what the character they already have initially is formed a little bit more by the ones who are around them. Some of them seem to, they seem to have similar temperaments to their parents. Some of it may be hereditary, but I think it's also more about nurture, that they see that they already have a little bit of it in them, but it becomes a little bit more. Plus, I have one brother, so that means that my parents' temperaments are somehow equally distributed between us. I have the sanguine part of my dad, and then I have the melancholic part of my mom, and a bit also of the phlegmatic part of my mom. But then as for my little brother, the choleric is very high. It took me a long time to actually decipher something like that, because he was always very firm on the things that he believes that he wants. So at a certain point you can get confused as somebody who wants to be more methodical and happy about things. Then somebody else is a little bit more firm about very quick in their decision making, and you realize that probably it's because it's also something that my dad also happens to have, and then he also has the melancholic part of my mother. So you kind of see that yes, there's a bit of a distribution because of how much time we spent around them. We have a role to play as the siblings, as the family members. That's why in African traditional culture there used to be the whole principle of it takes a village to raise the child, because there are so many things that they could easily learn from them. There are things that were expected of them in society. So we seek to inculcate the most positive of values within those first few years, so that even if somebody does lose their way, do have the initial fundamentals that they need to return to at a certain important time of their lives. Even those who have been sown in the most evil principles in their early childhood can be saved, but it would take a little bit of a longer time. That's why we emphasize sowing certain seed in their formative years. We need to applaud and hold fast the positive principles that have been passed on to us. We need to notice some that need to be discarded, because even some seemingly good principles, they are most well-meaning, might be actually holding back the children of the next generation from pursuing very, very important and necessary dreams. Particularly one that is highlighted very, very clearly in Rich Dad Poor Dad, a book that I also featured in one of my videos, which you can check out by following a link in the description, was the poverty mindset. For so long we have been taught that, since the truth is we are poor to a great extent because our earned income our passive income doesn't supersede our earned income, and some people don't even have an earned income to begin with, right? But there's also the poverty mindset where there is constant fear in the home, constant fear of when you get money, hold fast to it. Do not let any of it go sleep. Like, we are constantly living in fear that we could be 100% poor again. The risk appetite is low. The need to take the necessary risks to get from one financial level to another are highly discouraged. It's even talked about by Busi Tembekwayo in one of his vids that most people who, when they become CEOs of big and powerful institutions, especially banks, they reach a certain point and they're like, we've reached at this point. I have my job for about 5 years. We're growing at this and this percentage per quarter. Let me just make sure that I don't mess it up. But why should somebody be thinking about not messing things up instead of taking the necessary risks to jump from one point to another, while of course having a team to maintain the current position? Why? The mentality that Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about, Robert Kiyosaki, as he refers to Rich Dad, he talks about being in the employee rat race, believing that we can constantly be employees and work ourselves to death and depend on pension, depend on social security, instead of investing in what the rich invest in over time. Definitely it's something that I've also been thinking about, because for many years that's what we've been taught. It was a system that was designed to make sure that there was a system for a long time that was designed to make sure that Africans don't get into the big business of this world. And now that they're actually getting in, some people are okay with it, some people are supporting it, while others are against it. But If it had been sown in some of us in our formative years, we probably would have been the big entrepreneurs that we want to be right now. It's something that you struggle to change just within your mind and then actually in actions, because you find that once you're making a mistake, something that's also taught a lot in school is the whole avoidance of mistakes. Yet mistakes is how experimentation works, how the world progresses. You find that actually once people are in such a state and they are not taking the necessary risks, somebody else will take the risks for them, take the bigger portion of the benefits, and they'll just come to take the little bits of benefits out of it. I've been working on it for the last 3 to 5 years. It still feels difficult, but I know for sure once we saw these these seeds in our children, the next generation, our friends, the ones who are young and probably haven't been exposed to it yet, the more we can see a change because it has been put in their formative years. I am grateful that I have grown up in a family, one that encourages progressiveness, one that encourages spiritual growth, one that encourages morality, one that encourages also becoming better at every single thing that you do. And I know that not many people have had the opportunity to be in that position, but some of them have found themselves in actually the same or a better position than need to take on certain decisions in life that are very, very fundamental. Rejecting violence. We've had stories of even people who become pastors, but because in their formative years, probably their fathers used to beat up their mothers, it's something that they resort to in a state of emotional weakness, if I could call it that, right? But that is while we are understanding of the fact that happened in their formative years, that happened in their early years and throughout most of their lives. It's not an excuse for them to continue, but for them to notice that yes, it did happen, but now there needs to be a change that needs to be made, and there are certain strategies that they can take to actually make sure they do not fall back in the same positions. People who are in high positions, they have really made it in life, they have huge titles, but they have certain habits that have been sown in them from the formative years that may be retrogressive to society. These they can change. While it looks like after 50 years things are set in stone and can never change, we can make sure that at least we say it to the next generation, and at least we can see they see an active pursuit of being different. All these can be sown in their formative years. Personally, I think every generation works a bit harder. That every generation before us has worked harder to make sure that they let go of some negatives in society than the next. If you find that probably the poverty mindset was strong in our grandparents, our parents made sure that they tried to reduce on it, and then now it's upon us to make it almost infinitesimal, such that once we get to the next generation, we have younger people who are more interested in taking risks, who are more interested in sidelining violence, making sure that it's not normal but an anomaly in society, making sure that the positives are upheld, the things that are positive in character, the things that need to be used to make sure that humanity progresses, and not the positives are made high and the negatives are made low. Anytime you meet a child and have a chance to pour into them, think about it. What is it going to be? Is it going to be an encouragement? Is it putting a smile on their face? Is it a necessary stern correction for something that they should not do that will be very detrimental to their lives? What will it be? Whatever you are going to pour into this child, let it be as if, think about what you would have wanted to be poured into you as a child, and think about how it can be progressive to society. Could it be spiritual guidance? Could it be hope for the future? Whatever you decide, remember that somebody in their formative years, something small that was sown there can come into something big and something beautiful over time. This has been starting out, and I hope that those who are in their formative years and those who have people in their circles who are in their formative years can be able to impact them in a positive way, and the ones who are already old, the ones who are even 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, that we can aim to always sow something positive in the formative years, first 5 years of their lives.